Hello, welcome back to the Agile Commute podcast, where we will laugh and explore fresh insights and practical advice to re-energize and inspire your leadership, business, and Agile journey. We are your co-hosts, John Burns and Casey Sharp.
And thanks for joining us on the ride today. Hey, what's up?
Hey, it's been a long time since we recorded, huh?
It sure has. Sorry for all the delays to anyone who's listening, but hopefully we're back for now.
Yeah.
Since it's been a while, we haven't even had a chance to talk about the conference that you went to, so I'm hoping to get the lowdown on everything that happened since I was not able to go this year.
Agile2025. Yeah, life kind of gets in the way. I was barely able to make it this year. Let's see. So it was kind of like how do I describe this year's conference?
It was shorter, right? Wasn't there something earlier where Agile Alliance partnered with
PMI.
Yeah, PMI, and it was shorter.
Yep.
Right? How many was it? 3 days? It used to be 5 days.
Yeah, it used to be 5 days. This year it was 3 days, and there was some controversy on day one, but I was not able to make it to witness the controversy.
Day one is in like the Sunday before it started, or like that actual Monday?
Monday, it was a part of a session that I was not able to attend.
Oh, okay. Oh my gosh. I'm excited to hear this because I love drama.
Yeah, so first of all, before getting to the conference, I did not make day one, and it was because there were some weather systems in the area and having to do with where my plane was coming from. In the end, I had a flight that was supposed to go out to Denver. I had everything all set up to go. I was going with 3 other of my company mates, and we had plans to do a team event on the first night, which was going to see a Queen cover band at the Red Rocks Amphitheater. Totally awesome. And then we had made plans for what sessions we wanted to go to on day one. They got out there, and I was left behind because weather systems caused delays, and I wasn't able to arrive until the afternoon of Monday, and I missed all the sessions, but I was able to make the concert.
That sounds like a convenient story. You couldn't go to any of the sessions, but somehow you made it in time for the concert.
Yeah, somehow that Queen cover band was totally awesome. They were really good, but it was kind of killing me because I just couldn't get out there. So while I was waiting, though, it was torturous because, like, one of the guys, he was saying, dude, I'm in a session right now with Jim Highsmith and this other guy that's a signer of the manifesto, and they have PMI up on the stage too, and they're talking about the future of Agile Alliance and PMI and what's happening with Agile. I'm like, what? And he said that some people in the room were kind of getting upset and were not liking the change. And then they made a big announcement. And this was the announcement. They said that they were in the process of rewriting the Agile manifesto.
Oh, yeah, I saw emails about that. I kind of ignored it because I just generally ignore all my emails. I probably shouldn't have ignored that since that seems like kind of a big deal, but I was just like, okay, well.
I missed it.
That's what everyone was talking about last year. Everyone was complaining that it hasn't been updated in 800 years.
Yeah. And
now they said, okay, we're going to rewrite it, and now you guys are still upset? You can't have it both ways.
There were some people that were upset, yeah. And I missed it. The last time anything was written on the Agile Manifesto was 24 years ago. So I missed that session. But it's okay. I'm so glad that my coworkers were there to witness that. And I said, dude, I texted him, dude, that's history. You just watched history being made right there. Well, when they finally come out with the rewritten manifestos, that's when the history was being made. But the announcement, though.
So who's rewriting it?
Well, probably I'm hoping at least those 2 who were up on stage who are part of the original manifesto are in on the rewrite, plus PMI. Now, some of the things that my coworker said that were, I didn't know how I felt about it at the time, but there's one thing that he said that I thought was good, and that was part of the theme for the conference. You know, every year there's themes for the conference. One of the big themes for this conference had to do with addressing the executives of companies and speaking their language specifically and what they care about. And based on the other tracks in the conference, some of them had to do with, why we need to change our career track with agile coaching, why coaching wasn't working, all that stuff. I think my take on that is because perhaps the coaching that they're talking about that didn't really quite work were done by coaches who had a more dogmatic approach to agile transformation. And I've seen this happen too. They would go into an organization, the executive would say, "Hey, I want you to fix my organization." And they would say, "Sir, yes, sir." And then they would go to the teams and say, "You're doing it wrong. This is the right way to do it, and you should do it this way. And here's instructions on how to do it. Here's a checklist of all the events you got to do. Here's what you got to say in the stand ups. You got to do this, that, and the other." And they're highly process driven and they're focusing in on processes and being very dogmatic about it. When in reality, what the executives really need help with is the things that they're worried about. Like, you know, we're not delivering frequently enough. Like the users aren't buying our products, but they don't ask that, right? They don't say, "Hey, I need you to come in and help me figure out why we're not making products that users want to buy." They're like, "Our teams aren't going fast enough. I want you to fix them."
I mean, is that really true though, or is that just you're speculating that that's part of the problem?
Well, that's my speculation based off yours and my experience in interacting with other coaches where we are and in talking to other people at the conferences. Now, there's a lot of people at the conferences that do think the way we do. And we haven't been using agile terminology, or at least I haven't in the past several years. There are people I've run into that still do, and they're really process driven and focused.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's one person that particularly comes, actually, two people that, well, one person that comes to mind. That was really, I don't know why he's able to call himself an agile coach, if I'm being honest.
Still there doing the same thing? Is that what
I don't really know what happened to him. I try not to keep track, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, the whole PMI thing, like I'm pretty skeptical, I'll be honest. Are they really the ones who should be in on this?
Okay.
It just feels a little weird to me, but
Yeah. Why?
I'm keeping an open mind.
Well, let's explore the cons. Let's do pros and cons, shall we?
Well, I just feel like they're just like a big company that's just like wants to make money. I mean, like, sorry, PMI, like, I'm not coming for you or anything. Please don't cancel me. But, like, originally seems to me, based on how the stories are told, that the original, like, Agile Manifesto was very much, man of the people type of vibe. And if it's coming from a big company, it doesn't really have that feeling, which I guess is probably good if they're trying to target executives, because I'm sure they will believe it more if it comes from a name brand. So maybe strategically that's a good thing. But I just feel like, the agile mindset and the original manifesto and a lot of the things that I generally believe in, and I have seen like so many grassroots efforts and all of this like amazing stuff, it doesn't come from a big name brand. The roots are in people who wanted to achieve something and just get something done and actually produce value. They got together and they figured it out and they were able to spread the word and, do all that good stuff originally. And now, I mean, again, I'm keeping an open mind. Don't get me wrong. I'm a little hesitant. That's all I'm saying. And
Sure.
again, if their goal is to try to work now kind of top down and really try and get these high up people to buy in, then I do think having someone like PMI backing them is probably a good move. Honestly, I do think that actually makes sense because I feel like a lot of the executives, this is going to sound so bad, but like, let's just be honest, a lot of these people are not going out and doing their own research and learning this stuff on their own, but they hear PMI, they know PMI, you know.
Hmm.
They're probably more likely to just believe in it because they have a really good reputation, which reputation they've built for a reason and they've gotten to where they've gotten for a reason. I'm not trying to knock them. I mean, PMPs are still valuable. And I hear that I don't know what it's called. Do you know they have like that Agile certification?
ACP.
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
actually heard
It's,
really good things
mhm.
about it. So, like, That's what I'm saying. I'm trying to keep an open mind, but my knee jerk reaction is like, this feels very not to the spirit of kind of how Agile was created by like, again, like man of the people. And I'm like, I'm one of those people,
Yeah.
you know, and it feels, I could understand why people may feel a little bit of that twinge of betrayal seems a little too extreme, but you know what I'm trying to say?
Oh no, apparently that's what some of the people felt in the room. They felt betrayed
Well, honestly,
because
even when
what
Agile Alliance partnered with PMI, I was like, oh boy. Oh boy.
Oh yeah, they did not have a warm reception last year at Agile 2024. Just did not.
Yeah. But, you know, I can see if Agile Alliance or these other manifesto signers, like if they are really, I mean, last year was very doom and gloom, if you recall. Everyone was like, Agile's dying, everything's terrible, nothing's working, and AI. Throw in AI in there because that's all anyone ever talks about now. But like,
Same. We'll get to that.
but like if they were worried about this and they're trying to keep it alive and they want to shake things up and do something different, I mean, in the spirit of everything's an experiment, I mean, it's worth a try, I guess, right? Like if they were very doom and gloom and they're worried about the direction, try something new. This is something pretty new. I guess give it a go. See how it goes.
Yeah, some might say it's not necessarily new. It's old, and they're trying something old as though it's new. But yes, I wanted to go back to PMI getting involved with Agile. As my coworker James would say, one of the cons is PMI could turn Agile into Big Agile because PMI is this established, ancient body that started off rooted in Taylorism and waterfall. And what is Agile doing partnering with that as a con? Like, so one of the cons in my mind is similar to what you said. PMI's influence could have a negative influence on the mindset of Agile. They are, yes, focusing in on the executive level, but, and here's the pro, PMI has been around for a while. They've been very successful in very structured, predictable environments and across many industries. They have the experience there. We could learn from each other's experience with what worked, what didn't work. They're more focused in on the executive level and middle management level, which is very apparent because that's their focus is. Agile's focus started off at the team level. So it's a natural pairing there. And Agile, I would say, is very lightweight. I wouldn't say it's weak. She's very lightweight at the executive level. There's not a lot of structure, whereas PMI has a ton of structure at the middle management and the executive level. I wouldn't recommend that though. That's way too much structure. But one of the advantages for PMI is not only their experience, it's their understanding of the inner workings of office politics, because politics are involved, even though the principles of the Agile Manifesto and principles really kind of set that aside. They don't even address politics. I think PMI is good at it. They're really good at being advisors in a political environment. So that would be great. And they know the language. They know the lingo, and the language is very specific in the executive realm. And we need to start speaking their language. We've known that for years, right? So PMI should help us do that. Us, I guess we're now all us, I suppose. I'm actually kind of optimistic, though there's one thing I do wonder. The manifesto is likely going to be written at the executive level to address executives and what they care about, which is going to be very high level. So, what happens to the principles that happen at the lower level, like at the team level and maybe the team of teams level? The interactions between the teams and how do they do all that kind of stuff, and what principles do they need to keep in mind there? I'm thinking that XP will have a resurgence. They've never really gotten a bad rap, in my opinion. And I think it's for good reason. They've been around since before Scrum. And I think they're pretty solid. That's where we got pair programming, ensemble, I guess, now programming instead of mob programming. That's where we got test driven development, all that great stuff. Oh, user stories came from XP. So I think maybe the principles behind how we went about XP is going to make kind of a resurgence. That's my prediction.
That's interesting. Yeah, I never really got to work on a very traditional XP team, but I do like it conceptually. I think I'd like to try it, but it has been hard to get people to buy into pair programming.
Yeah, it's especially management, right?
Well, even the developers, are you kidding me?
That's true. I thought at this point in the age of Agile, we wouldn't see what I'm seeing currently now on one of my teams, and that's developers kind of wanting to go off on their own and not letting anyone see what they're working and they're not checking in their branch, like take checking out a branch for like a week without even talking to anyone about it, or design review,
That's
or
crazy.
or or just saying, hey, this is what I'm doing, what do you think? Like none of that. They're just like, oh, I'm not going to show any, I'm still working on it, I don't want to show anyone until it's ready. Like, what are you talking about? This is 2025. What are
Mhm.
you talking about? This is not collaboration.
I have some people who it's like pulling teeth to get any information out of them. And then I have some people who like we work pretty collaboratively. Like they'll send me screenshots or they'll call me or, whatever. And each other. And I will say they're very interactive with their code reviews and stuff that they have to do. But yeah, some of them, like I think if they had a choice, they probably would like to just go into their little hobbit hole and just do their thing.
I tell you what, it is tempting. I sometimes I work with my Excel spreadsheets and VBA and stuff, and I'm like, I don't want to show anyone until I'm ready. It's like messy, it's ugly, it's clunky. There's all these flaws. It's not working right.
Why do you think that is? Because I don't feel like that most of the time. Like, I'm like the opposite. I've done like one scribble stick figure, and I'm like, what do you guys think of this concept? And they're like, what even is this? And I'm like, do you see the vision? And they're like, it's a stick figure. No. And I'm like, okay, let me add a couple of clouds and like a little sun. And they're like, what?
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, where do you think that comes from of like not wanting to show somebody your stuff until it's really good? Because I definitely don't think I have that.
Well, for me, I'm all about relationships, and I don't want. Um, my fear is to people will think less of me because they're like, "Wow, you're an idiot. This is your code. Who wrote this? A third grader?" Yeah.
But
So
that
it's
seems
it's
like so unlike you, though. I feel like in most other aspects of your life, you're not like that at all.
no. Well, it's different because if I here's for me again, me, if I'm doing something like that, or if when I rewind back to my days of doing simulation modeling, before any code is written, if I have a discussion about it and draw it out on a whiteboard, so different. I have no problem talking and showing people my code. But if I started on my own and just did my own diagram and only I took a look at it and I just started going, yeah, I would be more reluctant to show it to somebody.
That's weird. Why?
Don't know. Actually, no, I do know. It comes down to being embarrassed, potentially embarrassed about what others might think of me as a person, not necessarily, what they might think of my technical competence, just me as a person lose value in their sight and stuff since I'm a relationship kind of focused individual. Other people might be concerned about not being smart, not knowing the right answer. I can see that. Um, and other people who are a body type who just want to be in charge don't feel the need at all to ask anyone's advice. So yeah, they're probably just not gonna. I'm like, why would I ask them for their advice? They're not the ones that are gonna be making decisions. I am. So it's like, why bother? It's a waste of time. But I've seen this work. So on one of my first Scrum teams, my tech lead insisted it was a hard and fast rule. Don't no coding until we did a design review on it with more than two people. It's like three people on the team need to be in on the design review. What are you thinking? What parts of the code are you going to touch? What's it going to do? And how are you going to modify stuff? What's your plan, basically? And then after that, yeah, just go for it. And then I'll just ask you how you're doing later. That works for me when I'm doing stuff like that. Even building backlogs or even like, piecing together an increment of features and stuff, or I don't know, putting together a comprehensive report that shows the status of multiple initiatives and stuff like that, or whatever. when I talk through it with somebody, it becomes a lot easier for me to just show them my equations or code.
Mm. Yeah, I don't have that problem, which you'd think I would since I'm a chronic perfectionist.
Yeah. Oh, well, that might make sense because if you believe that together you can create a more perfect solution, then that might be your motivation.
That's true, but I also believe in like drafts. If you write an essay, the first draft is never going to be good. It's not going to be like New Girl where Nick writes a full novel and literally everyone's running around saying no notes. Like that's not reality. That's a comedy show. So, but like when you write a first draft of an essay, like you're going to get edits. Like it's just part of the process. When you write a user story, it's probably not going to be good the first time, but like it doesn't need to be. It's not supposed to be. Or like if you write a PowerPoint or you draw up a design or a concept or whatever, it's not really meant to be perfect on a first draft. Like eventually, yes, it should be really good, right? Like you go through a process to get and refine something to get to that point. I don't know, it's a process to get to perfection. So maybe that's
Ooh,
why.
well, there is, yes. While you were talking about that, the first draft not being perfect, there is something that could upend or affect that paradigm. And that was one of the other themes of the conference. How about if you start off using Chat GPT and then you go and ask it, hey, draft for me whatever, even code, and then it spits out something, and then you have somebody look at it and they're like, no notes, because this is pretty good. What do you think about that? Do you think we're going to become complacent?
Um, I worry that that's the case. Personally, I'm not a big fan of ChatGPT. That's just me. Mostly because in my personal life, there's a lot of artsy things that I like to do and care about. And I think my mom and I were just talking about this the other day because there's this whole thing about people having like AI girlfriends and marrying their AI and like this whole thing. And that's it's not specifically what you asked me about, but like that was in the news or whatever, so we were talking about it.
Well, I mean, I can see the draw. They don't talk back or give you attitude or,
Well, if you
argue.
want to get really philosophical, I find it very sad that we can't achieve the type of human connection we all need with each other, that we're like resorting to going to AI to find that. But that's a whole separate, probably different podcast. Not our podcast, that's for sure.
Ooh, are we searching for perfection, like the perfect mate? And then are we moving away from any kind of pain? And first draft, you experience pain because what you just created, there's like a criticism, and that could equate to pain. So maybe it's about trying to avoid pain.
Um, yeah, maybe. I mean, I haven't thought too deeply about that angle. I feel like ChatGPT in general in the business world is more focused on efficiency. And if you can achieve, let's just say perfection, even though I don't think that that's true. Let's say you feed ChatGPT a prompt and it writes you whatever and it's perfect on the first try. You've now saved yourself 4 iterations of, let's say, refining this speech that somebody has to give,
Yes.
right? From an efficiency standpoint, from a business, purely monetary, bottom line, revenue, yada, yada, of course a business would want that. I don't necessarily agree with it, but of course they would want that. Like, I fully can understand why you would want efficiency. And if that means you don't need 3 editors and 4 days of work to refine a speech, and you need 1 day and 2 people, you've now increased your efficiency by 50%. I don't know. I just made that up. I wasn't really paying attention to what I was saying. Let's say, right? Like, now you've eliminated 2 editor roles and you produce speeches twice as fast. I mean, from a pure number business standpoint, that's like a no brainer. Why wouldn't you do that? So,
Well, case in point, I am actually doing that right now with my backlog management, and I'm doing far more than I ever did with creating and maintaining a backlog. And I do exactly what you said. I just type in my thoughts. I say, hey, help me draft this epic and associated stories. This is what we're trying to do. And this is the conversation that we had with the engineers, blah, 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 blah. I just type it all in. And it says, here you go. But I give it a format. And then it says, here you go. And then I translate that into our task management, task tracking system. And then I ask the team to take a look at it. No notes. Like nobody, I don't know why. Like, is it
Well,
because
is it
it's
that the
that
team
good?
just doesn't have opinions on stuff? Because I have that problem now. I'm like, hey guys, look at these stories I wrote.
Yeah,
And they're like, wow, round of
that's
applause, round of applause. Actually, that's not true. Now they're more mean to me. So like they'll tell me now.
see. I want my team to be more mean. So how do yeah,
You
and it
have to be mean. You have to teach them. You have to lead by example. They tell you as a leader, you have to be everyone's watching
be
you
the
at all
change
times.
you want to see.
Right. You set the example. So if you're mean, they'll be. Please don't actually go and do this if anyone's listening. I am kidding. This was a joke. Well, mostly. I do
Kind
think
of. No, it's not. It's not a joke at all.
it is a joke in the sense that like don't actually be mean. But what I actually mean by what I'm saying is I think my level of honesty and openness with like me being vulnerable allows them to do the same. Which to me, being vulnerable is being a little bit silly and being a little bit blunt. But like they know that. And so I also go to them, I'm like, hey guys, here's my first draft of trash user stories. Let's fix these together because I'm gonna keel over and pass out at any moment. And they're like, okay, let's do that. Let's fix these. That's I don't be mean to your team, please. That's not good leadership. But being vulnerable and being honest can get some people to engage. Also, I think about some of the stuff that you said about like not weaponized ignorance, but sort of like, I don't know what I'm doing. Oh no. And then other people will step in to help. I don't take that approach because it bothers me. I don't particularly care for that because that's not how I personally want to come across. But I do take the approach of like, I need help and I didn't have a lot of time to do this. And like, you guys know better than I do type thing. And, people chime in. But I will say to your point about the chat GPT and you creating the stories, I think if you wrote the stories by yourself, your team probably wouldn't have anything to say about it anyway, would be my guess.
Yeah. I mean, even the stuff that okay, so there's a couple instances where I'm in the room when they're doing a TEM. I'm just writing my notes and then I draft up a couple, like in one case an epic and a couple stories. And I said, this is what I heard. I don't know if this is all encompassing or not. Does this capture what you guys were talking about? And like crickets, like I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I gotta figure out. Maybe I should say there's a mistake hidden somewhere in here. You have to find it.
I mean, that probably would get a lot of people motivated.
Yeah, gamify it. Leaderboard, so and so found the most number of mistakes.
Yeah, I mean, I think some people would be into that. I have asked other people to write stories, which then forces them to be engaged. And sometimes I'm like, hi, is anybody out there? Anyone alive? Can I please get a sign of life?
You're so much better at sarcasm than I am.
Well, that's because we have very different personalities.
Ah, it's great.
But literally, I'm just like, is anybody out there? And then there's this one guy on our team who, I guess there's like a Def Leppard song where they say that. And so he'll start singing that
What?
song.
Pour some sugar on me?
No, is anybody out there?
Oh,
It's like
yes,
a
that's
line
right. I know
from
that one.
the song or whatever. And I don't know
Yeah.
that song, but he's like, he'll start singing it.
Is there anybody out
Can
there?
anybody give me like a reaction emoji on this Zoom call? Like anything? Bueller? And then finally someone will be like, yeah, we're here. And I'm like, okay, great. Would anyone like to comment? Because we're going to sit here in silence until somebody says something. And then that makes people talk because they hate sitting in silence. So, anyway, just some not good, don't replicate techniques to facilitate your meetings. Don't do this is the don't do these things podcast.
I'm looking at the lyrics for a song called Foolin', and that's where he sings, that's where they sing, Is there anybody out there?
Oh, okay, sure. I don't know that song, but
Yeah, it goes, Is anybody out there? Anybody there? Does anybody wonder? Anybody care? This is pretty
That's
much, it's
pretty much
appropriate.
me at every meeting. We have gotten really off the rails. So back to your question about AI, and hopefully back to the conference, so we can hear
Yeah.
more about what happened. But the AI thing, I mean, is it about not wanting to make mistakes? I do wonder, or like not get hurt. I do wonder if there's some of that with the younger people who are being brought up with it. Like, do they know how to deal with
The Utes.
youths? But like the street youths. Oh, two neural references in one episode. You guys are in for a treat. So like, do they understand the editing process or having a first draft completely obliterated? Or like, I mean, maybe they do, right? Because like maybe they're editing what
They
happens and
should,
then
right?
I don't know. I don't really know.
I mean, anybody that goes to college should know. I'm a math major. I know what the editing process is.
Yeah, I'm very I don't know. I'm very unnerved about the AI stuff, and I don't really use it, and I don't really want to, and I do worry that that's going to hold me back later in my career because this is such a big thing, and there's now like full not career, but like a title. Oh, like what was it? Like professional like prompter.
Prompt
Yeah,
engineers.
that. And I'm
My
like,
prediction is the fad because large language models, the whole point of it is you shouldn't have to be trained on how to use a large language model. It should be intuitive. So it's be like engaging in a conversation with another human being, or in this case, they're like an intern in that they do everything you ask them to do, but it's like an intern that it's the smartest person in the world.
mhm.
So think of it that way. You just need to know logic. That's it.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I may be shooting myself in the foot in the long run by not engaging. Like from a work business standpoint, I fully can put myself in a business's shoes and understand why you would want to use this and the benefits, and great, got that. I could also make an argument as to why that's not good, but I'm not going to get philosophical or political about it. I mean, there's pros and cons to everything in life. Like, I hate to be that kind of person where it's like, we all live in the gray area, but like, kind of. I mean, I don't know if there's really any right answers for things, but like in my personal life with the types of art stuff that I do and like the painting and the drawing and that type of thing, like it's a tactile, tangible, you've created this thing with your own brain and your own hands. And there's so much AI art and there's so much that we are moving so fast that there's a lot of things with these AI models taking artists' work without their permission and creating new things. I just think that gets into some pretty not so good. It just doesn't sit right with me, and it obviously doesn't sit right with a lot of the artists that had originally put their things out there to be viewed and not to be used to create new artwork. And I heard about this one, I'm not going to get specific, but there was a specific art studio that has a distinct art style. And there was like this AI generator to basically take whatever photo you want and turn it into this specific studio's art style. This was done without the art studio's permission. But because the art studio didn't
Oh,
have,
a specific art studio. Yeah,
it's
that's
like a
not great.
very
That's not
and
good.
it's a very distinct style. And from my understanding, because they're a smaller studio than the people who basically put out this generator, there was really no way for them to even win in a legal battle. So like, there's stuff like this that's going on that just doesn't feel right. And there's a lot of people using it to like write music and like I get that it can be an aid and that it can help and it can extend these types of creative activities to more people. But I also just wonder if it's taking away from the human experience overall. And again, like me having a separate outside of work creative side and having a friend who like runs her own art business and things like that, I just worry, are we going to rely on it to create all of our music? And what you said, right? Like you put in a bunch of stuff and it even does the first draft for you. Like you didn't even have part in that creative mental gymnastics that happens when you want to be inspired or come up with something new. And I mean, you could apply that to literature and book writing. Oh, you know what? That's why my mom and I were talking about it. Because I was reading this book, and this author has written like, 200 books or something. And my mom was like, how in the world she write 200 books? I was like, I don't know. Maybe she's a fast writer. Or maybe she has like a team of people. Who knows? So that's why we started talking about our authors going to start using AI to basically generate books for them based on maybe concepts that they have, or, they input maybe their starting point and it produces full novels for them.
You won't
And
know.
like what does that mean and blah blah blah, and like breaks my heart a little bit because even though I'm not a writer, I don't write novels. Like yes, I do my little silly paintings and artwork for fun for myself, but like the creative process of like sitting down and like being able to produce something out of nothing, whether that's a painting or a song or a cake or a novel, an essay, a play, a movie, right? Like there's something satisfying to humans to be able to do that, which, because like this stuff has existed forever. And now I feel like we're losing a little bit of that. And you could even argue, even
Yeah.
in the business world too, like if you produce a presentation and you did this on your own 2 feet and you crush it, like that feels amazing. But then if it was like, well, I basically just had AI do it and that was that. Like, is that really the same personal human self satisfaction?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not, and I think that's the direction that we're going. Like the book example is a great example. Everyone's going to be so in I don't know if this is the way that books are going to go, but now with AI, editors are the best, can become the best writers because they have seen so many works from so many writers. They know what's good for them, and then they could probably just come up with a concept or idea, tell AI to draft up a copy, and then they just edit it, and then they could very quickly pump out books like developers. So I work with a guy. He's a degree from MIT. He said, "This is so not natural for me. I went to school for years to learn about how to code, and I just put in to AI. I just say, write me code to do the following in this language, and it spit it out, and it works." And I'm like questioning what I've been doing all these years, and I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
dude, that's the future, man. It's just
Yeah. And
crazy.
I will say that I wish I could remember this line from a movie. It was super, I'll ask my mom. It was a movie that she showed me. But basically, it was like talking about new technology and the invention. It was like an old movie, like black and white, probably. But they were talking about like the invention of the telephone and how like every time a new technology comes out, an old way of life basically becomes obsolete. And that's true for every technology that has ever existed. And I'm sure every single time a new technology comes out, people who are used to the old way are like, oh, it's getting rid of the human experience. And, I'm sure there's plenty of like crafts or things that people have done by hand or, whatever that aren't done that way anymore. And that's just not a thing that anyone knows how to do. And I'm sure at the time, people were really upset about that. It may not be as widespread, you know, or as impactful as this, but like, 10 years from now, I'm sure we're going to look back on this podcast and just be like, wow, the times sure have changed because, like, it's just going to be the way of life. And right now, I feel like it's sad, but who knows? In 10 years, I might be like, thank God, this is amazing. Look at our lives. Who knows, really?
Oh, I think it's going to be, look what we're able to do now. It's so great. We're able to do a lot more stuff. I'm able to spend more time doing certain things because all these other things are now automated.
Yeah, I hope so. I'm just worried, though, that it's moving so fast that people aren't going to be able to keep up. And by that, I mean, like, if a lot of occupations go away or jobs get reduced, like, what other jobs are going to be created that people can do? And again, this has always been a problem. Every time new technology comes out, people are like, "Oh, they're gonna steal our jobs. The robots are coming." Like, yes, yes, we I know. The only reason I'm a little bit concerned now is because again, the speed at which this is happening is like unprecedented. So that worries me a little bit.
Yeah, it is going
But
really
anyway, I
fast.
just sound like an old fogey. Aside from AI, what else? What are the other conference highlights?
Well, there is related to the AI. There's one thing that was cool, and that was not a full track, but it was coding for good. Is it innovation or coding for good? I thought this was one of the coolest parts of the conference. They put together a team that facilitated. I want to say it's a combination of mob programming and design sprints. And all day, every day, there was a constant session that existed to prototype, not to prototype. At first, they prototype, but then they built something at the conference for a local charity. They picked an organization leading into the conference, and I walked into the room and I did recognize a lot of the things they had up on the walls from my experience in facilitating design sprints. They had crazy eights up there on the wall. They did drawings, they did sketches, they did voting. And I was watching them code, and they were using AI. What they were doing is they had something like agentic AI where they ask it, "Hey, write me code to do this," and then they would move, and that was on an iPad or something, and they would type. Somebody was using AI, and then the driver of the mod programming or ensemble programming would be typing in whatever they said. Hey, try this one here, type this, and they were building an application right then and there. And I thought that
Were
was
these
totally cool.
audience participants or were they like the presenters of the thing?
Audience participants.
Okay, so they had like one or two facilitators that orchestrated the participants to create
Yep.
something. That's pretty
Yep.
cool.
Yeah, they entered with a problem to solve from the organization. Then I wasn't there for this. I'd imagine they said, okay, these are the roles that we need in order to do this mob or this ensemble. We need a driver, we need blah, 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 blah. And then they probably self selected, and then they got to work designing, prototyping, sketching, storyboarding, and then developing a solution. At the end, they did have a working, functioning app. I think it was like a mobile app or something. This is kind of neat. I like
Was
that.
the session an hour?
No, this one is just, it was just listed as Hack for Good. That's what it's called, Hack for Good. And it was just a constant running Hack for Good in the same place. And they
That's
just kept
cool.
going. Yeah, I thought it was really neat. The doors were open the whole time. You could pop in and out. You could just see what they're doing, go to a session, come back and see what progress they made. It was, I hope they keep that going. That's
Well, a
really good.
couple of years ago, ensemble programming was like a big thing. And there was some guy I was talking to about some case study where basically they had 24/7 ensemble programming going. And they had people all over the world in different
Mm,
time zones, and people would just pop in and out. And it was like this seamless sort of thing where people could just were able to continuously, literally like 24/7 code and produce like this thing. And I don't I wish I could remember what the case study was, but basically they were able to produce this app in like unreasonable speeds to meet this ridiculous deadline. But because they had people in every single time zone basically working on this and they just rotated in and out, they were able to continuously code, which sort of sounds like what you're talking about, where like the doors were just open and people could come in and out. And I'm assuming they swap people in and out pretty easily in order to continue the activity. So pretty cool stuff.
yeah, there's some cons to that though, but with extensible code for the long run. But I mean, if you're building something like a prototype of something, an actual working application, I think it's really good. And then you want to build it for real later to be long lasting, extensible. So I thought that was really cool.
Okay, well, so we're kind of getting close on time, believe it or not. So, what are your, if you can like
Yeah.
rapid fire some of your other key highlights, and then also what was the food situation? Because you know I care about that.
Food situation was pretty good. Um, Actually, I thought it was really good. And the two other coworkers that are vegans, they said that their food game, they upped their food game for vegans. That's pretty good. I was actually expecting it to be a little better than that, but it was still better than Orlando and definitely a lot better than Dallas. Um, the conference party was lackluster. It was basically karaoke inside the
Well, it was
conference.
also like it was a smaller conference this year, so I'm assuming they didn't want to go
Oh yeah,
crazy.
yeah, I get it. I get it. Yeah. Well, we had a our team event was our team building event was we had a much better time going to see a Queen cover band at the Red Rock Amphitheater. That was just that could have been a bucket list item that I didn't even know about. That was fantastic. So other highlights are let's see. There are three different themes they list, but it's all connected in my opinion. How can we turn agile failures into growth? What if they don't want our help? And where does my career go from here? I lump those all into coaching of the past needs to evolve to a different way and a different approach to coaching organizations. And it all has to do with what level we engage at. I boil it down to we need to start engaging more at the executive level and speaking their language and being human beings to them to say, hey, I hear you, and then just listening and having empathy for them and what they're trying to accomplish. And it's not all about fixing the people that work for them. It's about helping the entire organization own the challenge or the problem.
So you said, what if
Um,
they don't want your help? What's that all about?
yeah, that one. I went to one of those sessions. What if they don't want our help? And that's all about. You and I have seen this. You go into a company, and then you start to work with the organization, and that there's either they say, okay, we're done with transformation, we gotten what we wanted out of it, and then we don't need you anymore, or someone hired you but you're working with somebody else who doesn't want you, uh, and then how do you, it's basically one of the underlying questions is how do I help someone who doesn't know they need my help? Like for instance, an executive asks you to come in to fix the people that work for them, and then you very quickly realize, well, I mean, they've gone as far as they can go in a couple sprints. What's holding them up now is you, leadership. So, how do we do that? How do we help them realize that situation?
Yeah, that's interesting. I probably, if I had gone, I'd want to go to like all of those sessions because I feel like in a lot of instances, I have learned in my personal life, I'll say that like sometimes you just have to let things go. And like if somebody doesn't want help, you can't force them. If they don't want it, it'll never happen type of thing. I would be curious, I think, about that one personally and like a lot of those sessions because even with like certain mental health things or like therapy things, it's not like the therapist can say, like, thou shalt do these things. Then, like, if they're not ready to do that, or like sometimes I'll say, from my personal experience with a family member who has a lot of medical problems, there was really nothing that I could say or do to get this person to do the right thing for themselves because they weren't ready. And like, of course, I was there for them and I am still there for them. And like, when they were ready to make the switch, I was right there with them. And I wanted to make sure that they knew that. But there wasn't anything that I could do to make them want to make that switch. Now, is this equivalent in the business world? Maybe, maybe not. Probably not.
Yes.
Oh, you do
No,
think
no,
so?
yes. I think human beings. Yeah, I do. I agree. They're all human beings. There's only so much you can do. But in the end, they have to be the one that decides they want to
Well,
change.
right. And so that's why I'd be really curious to know, like, what some of these sessions were or some of the advice. Like, is there any technique and I'm not saying you have to know, but I'm just asking out loud. And if people do listen to this podcast and they do have suggestions, you're welcome to comment or write us because genuinely, I have experienced that in my personal life. I've experienced that in my professional life where, like, this person or this organization desperately needs help, but they are just so not at a point where they're ready to see that. And I know that with a lot of the coaching that you've done and I've done, it's a lot of long game type thing where you plant a seed and you have to wait. Sometimes the seed grows and you're there and you're ready to help them when it does, and sometimes it doesn't. And sometimes you have to walk away.
You have to spread hundreds of seeds in the hopes that one of them will take root.
And in some organizations, as we've seen, the seeds that were planted just died and there was no way for it to grow. And when do you walk away, right, as a coach? And like, that's a fine line, but I'd be curious about that specific topic. It's not easy
Sure.
either to watch somebody where you, and I'm not saying like, oh, I know better than other people, but like, like there are people probably in your personal life and you've seen in your professional life that desperately need help, even if I can't give it to them, and they're not doing what would make their lives better and the lives of other people around them better. And it's just like, ugh, what a painful thing to watch. And like, yes, you can plant a seed, you can be there for them, but are there any techniques to help speed up the process, or are there techniques that could help them change their minds? Like, I don't know. I don't have those answers, unfortunately, but that's why I find that
Well,
topic for the conference really interesting, that this is probably a common problem.
I did too. I found this was one of my favorite topics specifically for that. I didn't. I mean, I went to one session on it. It had something to do with in the title like guerrilla coaching tactics. There wasn't anything too new, very much at all. But I do have an opinion on this on an approach for what if they don't want our help? What if they don't believe they need help at this point? And it was essentially, unbeknownst to me, my lightning talk that I submitted was on this topic. It was in this theme, and I didn't really know. I'm like, oh, okay, it actually fits well with this because lightning talk I gave was on hubris, and I gave several examples of where hubris shows up in teams. And my whole premise was that hubris, like, I started off with saying that, I'm a coach. I love helping individual people and teams grow and blossom into something that wasn't there before and they didn't think they could achieve. And it's just sheer joy in watching that. And I said that there's some people that are easy to help, particularly those that are in trouble, like they haven't delivered anything and they know it and they're open to help. Then there are other people who aren't in trouble who are very difficult to help because they don't think they need it. And that's hubris. And that's a plague that is reducing the performance of good teams. And that's the common thing that I've seen. And some of the examples I had were on the engineering side. Engineers are a big source of it. And then I gave an example from a senior level manager who torpedoed a continuous improvement effort that his CEO wanted him to do. And I was the one that was trying to get it off the ground. And it just failed ultimately because he didn't think that they needed to improve. We're great. Everyone thinks we're great. Why should
Mm-hmm.
we improve? It's because of his overconfidence in his skills, abilities, and performance and himself. And so, him being the senior leader, he gave permission to everyone else in his organization to not pay any attention to the effort. So I gave 3 tactics. First thing is there's a reason why they're resisting like that. So you want to try to walk in their shoes. So empathy is the first response and not take personal the resistance. And then try to walk in their shoes. Try to see it from their perspective. Why is it that they're resisting? And then see if you can internalize that a little bit on your next approach, whether it's your wording or your mannerisms and stuff. The second thing is to find allies to apply peer pressure. Find people that they trust, they have influence over them, and then see if you can get a champion out of one of them or more, and then change your language. Given all the stuff you just learned through walking in their shoes, talking with their peers, get the language that they use and the approach and come at it a different way because the first way didn't work. So you have to try to figure out how to do it another way. And I didn't say this, if that doesn't work, you might not be the right coach. It might have to be a different coach.
That was my talk last year. Way to steal my content. Just kidding.
Well, I didn't say that last part. Oh, you mean all of it was your talk?
No, well, no. It was a little bit, it
It
was a
could have
different
been.
angle. I mean, last year it was about all the things that you could try to help somebody, but ultimately some people may not be able to be helped in terms of coaching, and like maybe
Yeah.
you're not really the right coach.
Yeah.
And so like when you assess how you're approaching this person, one thing maybe you coach, you are the problem. Because that, anyway, that was one of my points. It wasn't the whole thing. I was just kidding.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't put it past me to have not know that that was your talk because sometimes I just don't pay attention to you.
I
So it's all
know. I know that very well. That has happened many a time where you're like, oh my God, this thing. And I'm like, yeah, I told you that. I was the one who told you that thing. So, I'm very used to that by now. Typical.
right.
Anyway, that's cool you did talk. Sounds like it was pretty good. But we are out of time. So was there any final
Oh, I'm
what?
sorry. I do have one final thing. I wanted to say, so my coworker James also did a lightning talk when they had a little bit more time there. Unscripted. It was one of the best lightning talks. He could do a TED talk on this one. In short, he got up there and he said he went to high school at the same high school his brother did. And his brother was in the room. And he goes, I was on the football team. My brother was on the football team. Our football team had a bunch of people who were all stars. Our individual stats were awesome. We crushed it. A lot of us went to college on football scholarships and stuff, but we had a losing record. We had one of the worst records of all time. His brother, I think 1 year afterwards or 2 years afterwards, they had the best record that that school ever had. None of those players went to college for football. And it's because they attacked everything as a team. Their whole theme was we win at everything as a team, whether it's holding onto the ball, whether it's we're going to win at this practice, we're going to win at this sprint drill, we're going to win at being nice to each other, we're going to win at everything. So they built a culture of winning and they proved that working together as a team is far more effective than individual stats and individual people being all stars. And I'm like, dude, that's a personal story. I mean, he received like a standing ovation, and I'm like, dude, that was like one of the best talks I've ever heard. And he just did it off the
Are
cuff.
you
It
sure
was
he did it off the
fantastic.
cuff, or was he just telling a synopsis of Moneyball? Are you sure he wasn't
It's not
just giving
exactly
a synopsis of Ted Lasso?
Friday Night
Yeah, like, are
Lights,
you
Ted
sure he
Lasso.
wasn't
Yeah,
like taking those, putting them into AI, and then making it sound like his own story? You know what I mean? I am just kidding,
yeah, that's true.
obviously.
It could have been AI. Yeah, he could
It
have been
could have
the
been, yeah.
AI.
I
It might
mean,
not have been.
it's very deceptive these days.
That's right. You never
No, that
know.
that is really cool. I feel like that's really nice to hear a personal story of something that I think probably other people have seen and experienced, and clearly it's a thing since they have like at least two movies and a show about it. I'm
Yeah.
not trying to discredit
He
it.
also
I'm
said,
just saying, like, I think it's a very inspirational story, and clearly it is because people keep making those movies and shows about that.
but he ended it with, even though I was the better football player,
Of
he had a better
course.
record.
Of course. But that is true, right? I mean, like, when, what do they say? There's no I in team. Like, if you are
Yeah.
thinking about yourself, a lot of times it's at the expense of the bigger picture. So that makes a lot of sense that they were able to do better.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And not everyone has, they don't get to experience that big of a difference in their lifetime. And they have a personal story about it. I'm like, that is so cool.
That's why I always appreciated the music department, because you, as a whole orchestra, are competing against another whole orchestra, and all of you have to work together to create a musical masterpiece. I mean, yes, there are solos that people get, and there's like first chair, second chair. Unlike, I think, in a lot of sporting events where it's like the scout's gonna come and I have to like impress them and make myself look good, maybe at the expense of a whole game. Like, you literally can't do that in an orchestra. Like, you have to work together. Or even people who are in choirs. I feel like a lot of the, like, where you compete and how you compete, like, you do actually all have to work together in order to produce something. Anyway, if you played football or any kind of sport, or if you were in a band and you have a similar experience or a completely different one that was highly competitive, we would love to hear about it. And so, with that, John, I'm going to wrap, unless you had any final thoughts.
Please don't rap. Try, I don't know, country music.
I I don't think country music is for me either. So I'm going to do neither of those things. Anyway, thank you guys so much for listening. As per usual, please go to our Instagram, like, subscribe on all major platforms where podcasts are available. If you have any more in-depth topics you'd like to discuss, you can either DM us on Instagram or you can email our email, which is theagilecommute@gmail.com. It's also our handle on Instagram as well. And thank you guys so much for listening. Until next time.
See you later.